What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got another one of those videos. We have come to the end of another year. 2020 is finishing up. I am recording and posting this on New Year's Eve, the final day of 2020. For better or for worse, some people will say this was the hardest year of their existence because of what has gone on with the worldwide crisis. Others have found the silver linings and the blessings in their health and their free time, and they found ways to do new things. I've really enjoyed 2020 overall, but I can also sympathize with those that have had problems due to COVID-19 or things, quarantine, things like that, loss of their jobs, loss of their health. So my thoughts and well wishes go out to all of you. Healthy and unhealthy. I hope that you guys all have the greatest 2021 ever and bounce back very strong for those of you guys that have struggled. And those of you guys that have succeeded, I hope you continue to prosper and grow. 2020 is over, which means another time for a year-end review list of horror. So for the last several years, I have done my top 10 favorite horror films of the year, and this year being no exception. I was a little nervous early on in the year because I only got to see a few things in theaters and the pandemic hit, so I was really concerned about, oh my God, are there going to be 10 worthy horror films for this list this year? Are there going to be as many great films without as many places to release them? And thankfully, this was actually, much like the last 4 years in a row, this was a very good year for horror. You have to know where to look for it. You have to scour all over the place to find enough films to watch. And I, of course, even at the end of this year, tried to watch as many films as possible to get them all in for 2020 so that I could accurately rank these. Obviously, again, any kind of best of list, it's going to be based on my own personal taste. So we're going to all disagree about rankings and orders, and some that I'm going to leave off the list, and some that are going to be honorable mentions, stuff like that. We all can agree to disagree on how to rank some of these things. Also, I haven't seen every single horror film in 2020, so there's going to be some that deserve to be on this list that I have not seen yet, that I might not see for 5-6 years from now. So I'm just going to rank the ones that I've seen that I feel belong on this list, starting with 4 honorable mentions that I think deserve to be mentioned here outside of my top 10. So I'm going to go from 10 to 1 up backwards, but I am going to start with the 4 honorable mentions. First one I want to mention on this list is Hosts. It is not the Shudder Host, which was the like paranormal kind of found footage streaming internet one they did, which also was a solid entry as well from Shudder. I appreciated Host, but this is Hosts, plural. This is a movie. Basically, it's sort of an alien invasion style thing where some kind of virus infects people. I'm going to try to give all these films without spoilers, so if you haven't seen any of these, don't worry. I'm not going to spoil too much about these movies. But Host is a paranormal kind of thing where this couple goes next door for Christmas to visit their friends, and they've been taken over by kind of alien spirits that want some sacrifice and some blood for their Christmas season. So a bunch of sci-fi thriller horror commences, and a pretty solid effort. This was on my list pretty high for the first half of the year. I really enjoyed this, and it's an underrated one that a lot of people have not heard of, which I want to bring a lot of attention to things on my list that are not necessarily super popular and well known. So I want people to go seek these films out. So I really enjoyed Hosts. I also enjoyed Relic. Relic was another one. This one did get a minimal theatrical release. I liked it a lot. I liked it more because I watched it with a friend of mine, and then I did research on the director. The director made this film based on her own personal experiences with like depression and anxiety, and Relic is sort of a body horror based on a house or a entity taking over spirits inside that house and driving them crazy, and the spirit being represented by anxiety and depression. So it's a highly metaphorical, kind of larger-than-life psychological thriller that has a lot of cool imagery and dark images in this movie as well. So if you're looking for something a little deeper that you can relate to real life and personal experience, Relic is a very solid honorable mention on this list. Also, His House. I was very surprised that His House didn't make my top 10 this year. That just shows the quality of films that pushed it out toward the end of the year. His House is a very fun, want to say like house horror, basically haunted house kind of horror on Netflix right now. You can check it out on Netflix. It is about basically these refugees that come over from another country, and they're forced to stay in this house to come to America to make their dreams come true. And some things they've done in their past kind of cause some witches, spirits, hauntings in this house they live in that start to drive them crazy, kind of like a Shining or something like that. I like the fact that other actors from different countries got to be showcased in this, and the story wasn't just your standard American haunting. They did some things to relate it and had some nice twists toward the end to make this all come together in a really different kind of haunted house horror. Really enjoyed this one as well, and I'm surprised it didn't make my top 10. Final honorable mention for the year, The Boy 2. People hate these movies. This is one of the more controversial mentions on this list today, even though it comes in outside of the top 10. I like the first Boy movie, in spite of the twist at the end that kind of made it different. I like this sequel, in spite of the twist that made it kind of what you'd expect it to be. This one kind of retconned the first movie and made the second one a lot different. It's part prequel, part sequel. It's a little confusing in terms of the timeline, the story, but I really enjoyed it. I like haunted doll movies, and I like that this is kind of the modern day version of Child's Play. I like what they're doing with this series, in spite of the fact that it is not widely popular by a lot of fans. Again, if you like the first one, maybe you won't like this one. If you like this one, you might not like the first one. By the same token, I like them both. So The Boy 2 is in my honorable mentions. Don't fight me in the comments. Now we're down to our top 10, the best 10 horror films that I've seen this year, my personal rankings. Number 10, if I could read my own writing, Babysitter 2. The Babysitter 2, Killer Queen. I really enjoyed this. It's on Netflix right now. I love the first movie. This one takes it in a bit of a different direction. You have a bunch of new characters integrated with a bunch of the older characters. They tie some things up from the first movie. They create some new twists in this movie. This one is a little bit long, feels a little bit longer paced, and is not as good as the first one. It's not quite as funny. The comedy kind of goes a little over the top, but it's still overall acted pretty solid. The new characters are decent. I like how it integrates all the old ones. Samara Weaving is a personal favorite of mine. So I really enjoyed this one. Again, not as much as the first one, which was ranked in my top, I think, 6 or 7 of the year that came out. This one is my number 10. And if you like the first one, you will find positive things in this one that you like as well. I hope this series continues in some way, even though number 2 did a pretty good job of ending things. So Babysitter 2, I think, is a worthwhile watch for you guys on the lower end of my list. Number 9, Black Box. Pretty surprising entry here. It's one of the new Blumhouse films on Amazon Prime. They released 4 films at a time, 4 horror psychological films on Amazon Prime that got a lot of negative feedback. People didn't like these movies. I only saw, I think, 2 of them. I like this one the best. I think this one got the best reviews out of the 4. Black Box is a really psychological film about a man who's having problems with his memory after suffering trauma. So he goes to a psychologist to try and regain his memory, and a bunch of things ensue where there are different personalities, different people involved in a mind-bending psychological thriller. Can't say much more without giving it away. I know that's a vague review, but I really enjoy Black Box. The acting is strong. The younger actors in this are strong. The crossing of stories and personalities, they give really good character backgrounds for this. It's character-driven, and even though it's a longer film, I think it comes in about an hour 50 or 2 hours, I really enjoyed it. I think it's paced well. I think the twists are good, and I like all the ways they tie into things. There are a lot of twists and turns and a lot of psychology in this, but I think it's written very strongly. I really like this, and I hope people go out of their way to see it, because the Blumhouse films can be divisive and can definitely be a divided opinion, and especially these new ones, people didn't seem to like them. I think this one is a shining psychological thriller. It's not so much straight horror, but I think the acting and the characters make it worth being on this list. That's my number 9. Number 8 is Becky. This is one of the earliest films. I think this is also Amazon Prime, I believe. Really like this. This is the horror Home Alone. I reviewed this on my channel earlier this year. You can go back and you can see that. I believe I reviewed a couple of the other ones too that I mentioned on this list as well. Becky is a fun film about this girl who they go out to a cabin in the woods with her father and her estranged family after the mother, I think, either is divorced or passed away. The father goes out with her daughter, his daughter, in the woods, and criminals are coming to look for things that they might have in their possession. So Kevin James, of all people, does a great job leading the antagonist in this, and Becky is on her own as a young girl looking for survival and finds unique ways to try and thwart the killer's attempts. Hence why I say the horror Home Alone. It's fun, it's well-paced, it's well-acted, it's well-cast, and I think it is one of the underrated fun films on this list this year. Becky is really good if you get a chance to go check it out. It will surprise you in many ways. Number 7, Swallow. This is one of the last ones that I watched this year. Haley Bennett shines as one of the strongest actors on this list in her role for Swallow, where a suppressed housewife who's living the American dream but not enjoying it starts to put non-edible items in her mouth to feel and chew and taste them while pregnant. So she starts to, she has this, I forget, I think it's called cis or something like that, psi maybe. There's a disorder where we're putting things in your mouth that aren't actually food, can lead to very dangerous consequences. This is another cringeworthy psychological movie where it's not straight horror, but sometimes some of the things she's putting in her mouth and she's thinking about doing cause a lot of tension, a lot of building, and a lot of cringing and looking away. I'm somebody who can take a lot of gore and a lot of horror, and I had to cringe at a lot of these things and look away because it's a character-driven psychological movie that builds its tension based on what the character is choosing to do and how she's choosing to survive her ridiculously growing horrible circumstances. So it feels very real, it feels very tense, and it's acted powerfully. So I would recommend going to check out Swallow. It's one of the more indie films on this list, and it is worth watching. Man, the tension is real. Number 6, Anything for Jackson, another one of these late entries on my list that push things out. I love this movie. This is on Shudder right now. I think it's a Shudder original, actually, or a Shudder exclusive. Love this movie. It is a exorcism style movie. It's a possession movie that is very different than your standard possession. There's too many of those out there right now. This one flips that subgenre on its head. Grandparents essentially are trying to kidnap this girl, and this is in the trailer and beginning of the movie and stuff, so I'm not spoiling anything here. Grandparents kidnap this girl who's about to have a child, and they want to insert their passed away grandchild into this girl's body so that she can have their grandchild, basically. So they're trying to do a reverse exorcism, and there's some irreverent comedy in this. There's some dark exorcism in this. There's some gore in this. There's a lot of different demons and things that pop up. This layers the different subgenres and becomes like a poltergeist kind of thing. It becomes a haunted house kind of thing. It's a slow psychological burn in a way. It amalgamates a bunch of different genres as you go along, so that you start off with a pretty simple plot, and then you add in some black comedy, and you add in a bunch of different demons and things, and you don't know where it's going. So it is not your standard exorcism movie. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one. Go to Shudder and check this one out. Anything for Jackson at number 6. Down to our top 5, my friends. Number 5, Scare Package. I love Scare Package. This is my favorite anthology of 2020. What a fun film from Aaron Kuntz. They put together, basically it's like a love letter to the 80s. It is like 10 different, I think it's maybe 8 or 10 different short films inside of one film. It's like an hour and 50 minutes of like different 10-minute films. Some are very comedic, some are very gory, some are very over the top. And there's a rapper as well. Basically, this guy goes into this video store to work there. He's a lover of horror films. And they go back and revisit a bunch of VHS tapes, which play back flashbacks of all the different anthologies. And there's something in this for everyone. No matter what subgenre you like or what style of horror you like, there's gore, there's throwbacks, there's stuff set in different time periods, there's comedies. There's just something for everyone in this. It's cleverly written. There's a lot of love letters and homages to different eras in horror. I really liked how this thing went, and the rapper's really cool overall. There's lots of cool cameos. There's lots of good acting. I just really enjoyed Scare Package. So if you like horror anthologies, this is one that'll refresh your love for this subgenre. I liked it a lot. Good job, Aaron. Number 4. Now we get into the really super elite ones too, man. Scare Me. I love talking about clever, well-written horror comedies. This is one of the best written horror comedies that I've seen in a long time. This is on Shudder right now. I think Scare Package is too. So check out Scare Package and Scare Me on Shudder right now. Scare Me, I wrote this up on pophorror.com. So if you want to see my full review and breakdown of why I love Scare Me, pophorror.com. And my name is Jason Burke if you want to research the article. Scare Me is one of the most cleverly written things I've done in a long time. I've watched it a long time. Basically, it is a minimalized... one central location, 3 central cast members, basically. This writer goes out to a cabin in the woods during the wintertime to try and rekindle his writing career, comes across a beloved writer of his own that is also staying in a cabin next door to him. They kind of get snowed in, and they decide to try and scare each other by telling stories to each other, telling their own stories and acting them out to scare the other person and see who can top each other as they're drinking and hanging out. And none of these stories go to flashbacks. All the stories are acted, and all the voice changing and all the sounds they make is all done by the actors in real time. You're watching these two main actors, one of which is also the director and writer, I believe. You're watching these two main actors tell their stories and make their sound effects and do their voice changes and their their facial expressions all on their own in real time. It is a way of doing flashbacks in live time that is so creative, and the acting in it's so powerful, and the writing and the chemistry of the two main characters is so well done. If you like horror comedies that have a little bit of tension and bite to them with a lot of great acting as well, you'll love this one. This thing is so modernized and so fun, and then comedy throughout, and then you get to the tension at the end, and it's so well done. I want to see more films like this from this writing team. Top three, here we go. Final three for 2020. 1BR, Netflix's best effort of 2020. I really surprisingly enjoyed 1BR. I'd put it off for a long time. It came out early this year. I didn't watch it till later in the year. I didn't think it was going to be anything special. It is really one of the more dark, tense movies on this list. It is a girl who tries to get away from her previous tortured life, moving into this apartment complex with all these seemingly wonderful neighbors who are really nice to her. And it seems too good to be true, and maybe it is. All of a sudden, she starts to realize she is part of something a lot bigger in this complex with people that have different motivations for her. And it really goes into some really dark territory. If you like really I've mentioned a lot of lighthearted comedies in this. If you like a twisty psychological thriller, this reminds me of like a Darren Aronofsky, or even sort of, there's plenty of storytellers out there I can mention in this, but it kind of reminded me of like if Aronofsky was doing a kind of a haunted house kind of a thing. Again, really strong acting. Has that kind of post-apocalyptic kind of new colony feel. Those movies that kind of like, almost like a Walking Dead kind of thing, where places build new colonies and they wind up kind of being evil and torturing people and kind of being worse than being on your own. That is what 1BR is, and it does the job very, very well. And shout out to their production team as well for being so kind to me as I did all the reviews for this movie. They were just really cool to reach out to, and I love this movie so much. And this 1BR team is the same team also that did Host, which was on my honorable mentions this year. So this team is turning out a lot of good work, and I can't wait to see what else they do. Final two. Number two is one of the latest additions on this list that just came out recently. I can't wait for this to be on DVD because I want to own this forever. It is Christopher Landon's Freaky, the writer-director of Disturbia and Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse and Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day 2. Chris Landon has turned out a lot of really good horror over the years, and he's been on fire lately. And very much like Happy Death Day, this is a crazy horror comedy. This is like Freaky Friday, but for horror. Vince Vaughn and this young girl happen to switch bodies. This killer and this teenage girl switch bodies. So the teenage girl has to, find a way to get back in her own body, while this killer is in this teenage girl's body, going free, doing whatever he wants to do. And the person who is in the killer's body that is being hunted by the cops to be arrested is this innocent teenage girl. So you've got body swap horror here. Really underrated good gore in this. Some of the best gore of the year. Also, the comedy is just so great. If you've seen Happy Death Day and you've seen Chris Landon's take on Groundhog Day meets horror, this is his take on Freaky Friday meets horror, and it's just as well written, and it's a fun watch, and it's quick, and again, the gore's good, the acting is good, the casting is good. It renewed my love for Vince Vaughn. Catherine Newton is going to be a future star in this genre. I want to see more of these freaky movies, and I want to see crossovers with Happy Death Day. My goodness, what a fun watch. If you get a chance, I know it's they're charging a lot right now to get it on like YouTube and stuff like that, but if you get a chance, it is worth seeing. If it comes to your local theaters, check it out. It is so worth it. I can't wait to watch this over and over again. Chris Landon is doing great work right now. Number one, the final film on this list. I'm guessing you can probably figure out what it is, as this movie is the biggest theatrical release on this list because it came out before the pandemic started, and it is on most people's list as number one, The Invisible Man remake. This is just really, really good, man. This, I want to say it's Adam Wingard's team. I forget if that's true or not. I don't want to ascribe any particular director to this. The Invisible Man was just really, really strong, man. Elizabeth Moss shines in this, strongest actor this year in this movie. Basically, this girlfriend is just trying to get away from her abusive boyfriend. She gets out and starts over and moves into a new life. And the boyfriend, who's got a really big handle on technology, turns himself invisible just like in the original film in the 30s or 40s to chase down his ex-girlfriend and get what he thinks he deserves. So there's this long tension of not being able to see your antagonist and just knowing something is building and hearing a good sound design and hearing the silence and knowing he's popping out of somewhere and not knowing where. So great tension, great acting, great story. This film is as good, if not better, than the original from Claude Rains that I loved in the 30s and 40s. I love the original series. I love this remake. It is different in its own right, so it's not carbon copying the old one. It's cleverly written. It's updated for technology. The visuals look good. The twists are good. Everything about this film is a lot of fun, and I want to see more of these films, and I want to see more Universal films being adapted by this same team because they did this the right way. It's a nice mix of the old and the new together in one of the most tense films of the year. So that's my number one, The Invisible Man. What films would you add to this list? Give me your rankings down below. Tell me in the comments what your top 10 and your honorable mentions are, what films I could have left off this list, and what you think of the films that I did review in this video. Happy 2020, horror fans. I hope you guys enjoyed a lot of movies this year. I hope you're healthy and safe. Have a happy new year. Enjoy a lot of horror in 2021. Let's talk together in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe this video, and I look forward to continuing to join you guys on my YouTube channel in 2021 with a lot of wrestling, football, poetry, acting, horror movie reviews, all the stuff that I do at Styles Clash for Life. Have a safe and happy new year, my friends. I will see you soon.